The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. I think it's a phrase you've probably heard many times over the years if you've been going to this church. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. It's from Isaiah, not from Ezekiel, but it really applies to what we've got here today as far as the Ezekiel story. The last line of the Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel, you can see it in your order of service if you want, but it says, the Lord is there. He's describing a temple in a vision, and that's the last line, the Lord is there. So it makes me think of that line, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. And think about it in context of this bigger story of Ezekiel, right? At the beginning we have the vision, and in the second section that we talked about, the Lord is seen leaving the temple. The glory of the Lord is leaving the temple in Jerusalem. But at the end, the Lord is back. The Lord's glory has returned. The Lord is there. And that second part of the verse, let all the earth keep silence before him. You know what? I don't know about what you think of when you hear that line, but I think it conjures up for a lot of people the idea of respect, reverence. But as I think about it in context of this story, to me, it's about the Lord's wisdom. It's like, I want to hear what the Lord has to say. Everybody else be quiet so I can hear what the Lord has to say. The Lord's in his holy temple. Let everybody else be quiet so that I can hear what he's going to tell me because it's important. That's what I think is going on here. Is because when we think about temples in the Bible and cities, they're all about doctrinal structures. It's about wisdom. Temples are about wisdom. They show how things are supposed to operate. That's what's going on there. And the first, so we're looking at Ezekiel chapters 40 to 48 today. And the first few chapters of that, 40, 41, 2, 3, and 4, they're really, it's a lot of instructions. He's in this vision, and he has this man who's with him with a measuring rod, and they're going around, and he's like, all right, you're going to have these walls, it's this way, and it's that way, and all these measurements. It's like an architectural rendering. So we're going to help you out and say a picture's worth about 4 chapters. Here is this temple that is described. Yeah, I'm going to read you a few things. Here's a few things I'm going to pick off that are worth reading about. This temple was seen on a high mountain. There's glory, the Lord's glory is abiding there. There's water flowing from the temple. There's trees that have healing properties. These trees bear their fruit monthly. It's square, as you can see. This temple has 12 gates. I know it looks like there's only 4, but within these gates there are sub-gates, so it counts as 12. The name of the city is The Lord is Present. And this city temple is named for the 12 tribes. Raise your hands if this sounds anywhat familiar, right? This is very similar to John's vision of the New Jerusalem. 12 gates, it's square, glory abiding, there's a river, the trees of the leaves are for the healing of the nations. I mean, a lot of similarities between the New Jerusalem and this temple. And in fact, when Swedenborg writes about this temple, he's saying that this is a picture of the New Jerusalem. But there's one thing that stands out as different, that is pervasive throughout this. And it doesn't show in this picture, but in this picture it does. Can you see? I don't know if you can see it real well, the projector, but what is this material? It's brass. It's not gold. It's brass. And brass in spiritual meanings is about natural goodness as opposed to celestial goodness. So it's as if this temple is a picture of the first heaven, a representation of the first heaven. And the New Jerusalem is like a picture of a higher heaven because it's made of gold. The other things you can kind of pick out on this, to give you an idea of what this is going on here, is you can't really see it, but there's an altar for offerings. Like a lot of the activities that are described that happen in this temple are the very same as what happened at the tabernacle and Solomon's temple. And when we have all those rituals about animal sacrifice and the priests and their garments and all these things, the picture here is it's about obedience. The brass, again, it's about loving through obedience. I do what is told to me. I don't have this great love for the neighbor, but I do what I'm told because that's what I'm supposed to do. So that's what I think is this picture. It's that picture of a person who is spiritually obedient. They don't do it because of love to the neighbor, love to the Lord. They just do it because that's what they're supposed to do. And so I'm going to read you, where is it? I'm going to read you out of Ezekiel some of the other interesting little tidbits about this temple. From 44, verses 16 to 20, it's about some of the priestly garments. It says, "They shall enter my sanctuary, and they shall come near my table to minister to me, and they shall keep my charge. And it shall be, whenever they enter the gates to the inner court, they shall put on linen garments. No wool shall come upon them while they minister within the gates of the inner court or of the house. They shall have linen turbans on their heads and linen trousers on their body, and they shall not clothe themselves with anything that causes sweat. When they go out to the outer court to the people, they shall take off their garments in which they have ministered and leave them in the holy chambers and put on other garments. And in their holy garments they shall not sanctify the people. They shall neither shave their heads nor let their hair grow long, but they shall keep their hair well trimmed." So just quickly here, you can see this theme about linen garments. You're not going to wear wool. So that's, again, it's a symbol of spiritual goodness, not natural goodness. So it's a level up from what is happening here. So it's almost as if you have a picture of higher angels ministering to their lower angels, as it were. Wool represents celestial spirituality. So this high. So you can't have wool. You guys are not that kind of spirituality. You're not that. You guys are the linen people. And you're going to take care of these, brass people, as it were. And you're not going to have anything that makes you sweat, which kind of sounds contradictory if you're wearing linen, if you ask me. But the idea here is sweat is a symbol for your ego, your proprium. So while you're ministering to the Lord, you're not supposed to have your ego involved. You're not supposed to have anything of yourself mixed with the Lord stuff. And then we get to this last bit about the hair. And I'm going to read your Secrets of Heaven 33:01 about the hair. Hair or hair on the head is mentioned several times in the Word, and in those places means that which is natural. The reason being that hairs are outgrowths on the most exterior parts of a person, and also is the natural in relation to its rational and the interior parts of the rational. During his lifetime, it seems to everyone as though the natural within them is all there is to them. But this is so far from being true that the natural is rather an outgrowth of the internal parts of him, like hairs in the parts of a body. They also stem from the internal parts in almost the same way. This is also why people who have been wholly natural during their lifetime are seen in the next life to have faces covered almost entirely with hair when a visual representation is made of that state. What is more, man's natural is represented by the hair. When an outgrowth from good, it is represented by attractive and neatly arranged hair, but when it is not the outgrowth from good, by unattractive and disheveled hair. So there you go. So you have these guys are all dressed in linen, this spiritual state, and yet what's coming out, on their faces and on the tops of their heads is this well-groomed natural goodness that is coming from the internals within. So it's this picture of, as far as I see it, these higher angels ministering to the lower ones, And it's this hair is their goodness that comes through from that. As we move ahead in the chapters of the story, I'm going to take you to Ezekiel 47. And it's dealing a lot with the river that goes through this temple. It says, "Then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple toward the east. For the front of the temple faced east, and the water was flowing from under the right side of the temple, south of the altar. He brought me out by way of the north gate and led me around on the outside to the outer gateway that faces east, and there was water running out on the right side. And when the man went out to the east with a line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me through the waters. And the water came up to my ankles. Again he measured 1,000 and brought me to the waters, and the water came up to my knees. Again he measured 1,000 and brought me through, and the water came up to my waist. Again he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not cross. The water was too deep, water in which one must swim, a river that could not be crossed. He said to me, 'Son of man, have you seen this?' And he brought me, and he returned me back to the bank of the river. When I returned there along the bank of the river were very many trees on one side and the other. And he said to me, 'This water flows toward the eastern region, goes down into the valley, and enters the sea. When it reaches the sea, its waters are healed, and it shall be that every living thing that moves wherever the river goes will live. There will be a very great multitude of fish, because the waters go there, for they will be healed, and everything will live wherever the river goes. It shall be that fishermen will stand by it from En-gedi to En-glaim, and they will be places for spreading their nets. Their fish will be of the same kind as the fish of the great sea, exceedingly many. But its swamps and marshes will not be healed, and they will be given over to salt. Along the bank of the river and on this side and that will grow all kinds of trees used for food. Their leaves will not wither, and their fruit will not fail. They will bear fruit every month, because their water flows from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for medicine." So I hope that sounds familiar to you. Just kind of quickly again going through that, so the water goes through, it goes ankles, knees, and then loins. And it's the same kind of progression as you've seen many, many times. Ankles represent the natural level, the knees kind of a spiritual level, and the loins, because it's your procreational part of your body. It's this marriage of good and truth that comes together. That's the celestial state. And so he's showing us this picture of truth that's coming through, and you get more truth as you can handle it. You got to start off with the natural, and you go there, okay, well, I'll go a little bit deeper, okay, get there, and you get more. And it gets to be to the point so deep that he can't swim in it, he can't cross it. And it's this picture that there's always something more, and there's way more than you'll ever comprehend. The Lord has so much more wisdom than we can imagine. But that there are these 1,000, meter or whatever the unit was, I forget, cubits, 1,000 cubit increments in which the waters progress. These waters go out to the sea, and all the fish live. Well, fish, you see the theme here today, right? It's all about natural type of thinking. So fish are our natural thoughts. So thoughts about the world and how it works and all those kind of things. And this spiritual water is going to heal and make all those fish live. That prior quote we had in 3301 about the rational and internal, and it's this idea that these waters get to the rational part of our mind and allow us to see the spiritual world, or the spiritual reality behind everything that we see. So when we see trees and stuff, we go, oh yeah, there's a deeper spiritual reality to it than just, some wood being grown up out of the ground. There's something more. Everything comes alive when we see the Lord's working behind it. Now, some places it's going to be given over to salt. Well, salt doesn't have a good representation here. It's about vastation, about, all right, there's nothing good. Everything good's being taken out of it. So it's marshy land, it's no good. And then in the last chapter, Ezekiel 48, measuring up the last of the place, and there's going to be gates on this side and gates on this side, and 3 and 3 and 3, and you can read that if you wish. But then that last line, this is the end of the whole book. When you've got this whole temple all measured out, put together, and all described, what are people going to say? What is this place named? The Lord is there. The Lord is there. When you look at this temple, that's what you're going to see. The Lord is there. And what is this temple about? It's about wisdom. The Lord is in His holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before Him. It's about hearing what the Lord has to say and seeing, oh yeah, this is right. This is real. I heard a good analogy about wisdom that I thought is worth sharing in this context, because we use the phrase, oh, Lord is wisdom. Well, what is that? What is wisdom? Think about it in terms of a progression of a doctor. The idea was that, if you go to med school, they're going to give you piles and piles of information. Learn this, memorize it, commit it to memory, don't ever forget it. That's knowledge. Well, after some time of studying and getting all this stuff stuck into your head, they're going to turn you loose into a hospital under some supervision, maybe an internship or whatever. And you'll start to kind of understand. You go, oh yeah, look at this person. Their feet look like this and their face looks like that. And well, they must have, right? So you go, oh yeah, I understand all this stuff I saw in these textbooks. That's intelligence. You're combining the two. You're kind of raising up the level where you can see things in real life that you've learned in the books. But wisdom, we know wisdom doesn't come immediately. Wisdom takes time. And so this person, they graduate and they spend some time working with people. And after 20 years of being a doctor, they realize it's no longer about them being this hotshot prodigy who's, making it. It's no longer about going to class reunion and going, oh yeah, I'm a doctor, I'm a big shot. Or coming up with the amazing diagnosis. Now, wisdom is, oh no, this person is going through something. They're in pain, they're suffering. How can I help them? How can I take the experience I've had in my life to further this person along? It's not about me. It's taking the gifts God has given me and moving them forward. When we start acting like that, people are going to say, oh yeah, the Lord is there with that person. The Lord is there. That picture, that temple of all those activities of sacrifices and grain offerings and all the burning and all the stuff, what's at the center of that? Love, right? Fire is what's burning those offerings. It's love that's consuming those things and making them useful, making them pleasant to the Lord, as it says. It's all about wisdom, is this picture. And the reason I think that Ezekiel is showing us this picture of, you look at the big sweep of this book that we've spent the last 5 weeks on. The sweep is, okay, the Lord is leaving the temple. Right? That was chapter 12. Here's the vision of the Lord leaving the temple. Judgment on all the leadership. Judgment on the nations because everybody's been useless to them, not doing their job. Well, how do we reboot, right? The Lord's glory left the temple. It's like shutting the machine down. And now we're going to reboot it. We're going to start it over again. And the first steps to spiritual life are what? Knowledge, wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, wisdom. You start there. You got to learn the stuff. And we're going to start all over again. So when Jesus comes, this is near the end of the Old Testament, right? When Jesus comes, what's the priority? He's teaching them wisdom. He's teaching them, hey, all this Mosaic law you have, yeah, you've got it, but you're not understanding it properly. You have knowledge, but you don't have wisdom. We're going to start something new here. We're rebooting it. And I think that's the whole picture of this book of Ezekiel. And I like the way it ends. I like the way it ends because when we follow this design, and we stick with it, and we stay true to it, we've got a place. We just do these things. We've got a place where we can look to it and say, yeah, the Lord is there. The Lord is in His holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before Him. Amen.